Hello, all that are joining. We are just waiting a second for people to trickle back in. While I go ahead and get things situated on my end. Like we have right now 74 people. That's great. Welcome. It looks like it's about leveling off. Just two more seconds here. Rese, are you now incoming or are you now president?
I'm incoming, so I will become incoming in August.
Right. I forgot how we do that. All right. Let's get ourselves started here. Oh my goodness, 82. That's great. All right. So, welcome everybody. I'm going to go ahead and pin myself just for a second. There we go. So that works. All right. Welcome everybody to our 8th webinar in our Exploring Careers series. Can't believe that we've hit 8th. I'm going to say that every single time. I don't know how this thing keeps on going, but I'm so happy to have all of you joining us. I am your host, Aerin Stoller. I currently serve in the industrial sector as an applied ecologist for ExxonMobil Biomedical Sciences. And I also serve as senior chair for ESA's public and private sector ecologist section. You can read more about that if you just search for that on Google. You'll find that easily on the website if you're interested in learning more. So the purpose of this webinar is to share stories and guidance for all job seekers in the world of ecology. These are some interesting times that we're in, and I think that everyone needs as many stories for support and guidance as they can possibly get. It's kind of that thing where you're in college, you get your mentor and your guidance people to help out, but as soon as you leave, you sort of lose that support net. And so we are here to help. We are here to provide those stories, to provide some of that guidance. We're not going to find a job for you, but we hope that we can at least help you network and figure out ways of looking for those jobs. So, like I said, this webinar is here to help job seekers identify career opportunities, to broaden networks, to provide some hope for those that are struggling to find their niche or their next career, or those that have been displaced from their niche, which is an unfortunate statement that I have to make right now. And we're also here to help ESA cast a wider and more inclusive net over the professional ecological world. So Sandra is on with us today, and she will also give us a quick intermission, some announcements halfway through about ESA's offerings, which I strongly suggest you pay attention to because they are some great offerings that can truly help you find your niche in the world of ecology. So with me today, I have two amazing guests, including Aerin Jacob with Nature Conservancy Canada. I have been forewarned and trained personally not to say the Nature Conservancy because it's not the same organization, and Aerin can tell you all about that. And then I also have Rese Cloyd, who is the soon-to-be incoming president of the Ecological Society of America, as well as the other credentials that she can talk to you about. So we're going to have a conversation with both of those in turn. I have been really bad about asking questions live, but it shouldn't discourage you from asking those questions because we will, I promise you, get around to them. I will just have to send them out after the webinar. So if you think you have a valuable question that you would really like one of the panelists or both of them to answer, please do put them into the Q&A button at the bottom. So you're going to notice two buttons. There's the chat and there's the Q&A button. It would really help us if you put the questions into the Q&A button. If you just have something, a comment to say, feel free to put it into the chat. That's fine. But if you have a question, put it into the Q&A box. It'll help us answer those. All right. So with that, I'm going to stop my own talking here. And I'm going to give it over to Rese. If you could be so kind as to introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you're currently doing. You have a variety of positions in your resume, and I'm not going to fumble over the introduction. I'm just going to let you take it over, and then we'll start asking questions about how you got to that position in your life.
Yeah, thanks, Aerin. So I'm Rese Cloyd. I'm the currently the Associate Director for Fisheries and Wildlife at the District of Columbia Department of Energy and Environment. So in a little bit simpler terms, I'm basically the State Fish and Wildlife Director for the District of Columbia. So I oversee both our fisheries research branch and our wildlife management branch, as well as our aquatic education staff. So I've got about 21-ish people that are in our division, and we are responsible for the conservation, stewardship, and management of the fish and wildlife resources of the district. And I've been in this position for almost 3 years, about 2 years and 3/4 of a year. Before that, I was at the American Association for the Advancement of Science for about 6 years, where I led the Center for Public Engagement with Science. And before that, I spent about 10 years in the federal government. First as a Knauss Marine Policy Fellow at NOAA, and then following that at the U.S. Global Change Research Program, which coordinated all of the federal research across various agencies in the government and was also responsible for the National Climate Assessment. And so during my sort of second half of my time at GCRP, I led public engagement and communication for the third National Climate Assessment and some of the subsequent efforts. So really thinking about how we can open that scientific assessment process to a wider audience and a wider set of contributors. So sort of the through line through all of that time has been, how do we connect what's happening in the natural world with what's happening in the human world? And how do we make sure that we are really thoughtful about how we can support people's connections with the natural world, and how we can ensure that decision-making about management of natural resources is done in such a way that it is able to incorporate the best available science, as well as a variety of environmental and economic perspectives.
Oh my. Okay, we're going to keep this to careers. I have many questions to ask you about the current state of the world, but we kind of addressed that in our environmental outlooks webinar that was recorded last week. So I'm going to try to keep this to my career questions here. The position that you're currently in, you said it was the Division of Fisheries for the District of Columbia. Is that considered to be a state or a federal, because it's DC?
Yeah, so it is a state government position. So the District of Columbia, although not officially a state, we are a federal district. So we're kind of unique in the way that we are considered by the federal government. But for the purposes of U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service funds, we are a state. And so we get things like state wildlife grants, sport fish restoration money, other things that would sort of normally go to the state level. That's us. And when I interact with other colleagues in the Northeast and across the country, I interact as the state director for fisheries and wildlife.
So, I mean, this position that you have with fisheries and wildlife for the District of Columbia, I mean, it really is a little unique from what I've seen in a lot of the fisheries and wildlife, in that you still get to do your education, your outreach, interactions with the communities. Maybe I'm just mistaken. I don't see a lot of like state level jobs doing that kind of outreach.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of things, because we're such a small division. Usually states do have some sort of fish and wildlife outreach function. So it could be angler education, it could be where they're doing outreach around wildlife or habitat restoration or all sorts of things. But because we're so small in the district, a lot of times it's career level staff who are supporting a lot of those functions. But in the district,
Wait,
I get
I'm
to
sorry,
go
what do you
out.
mean by career level staff? I'm sorry, can you say that? Can you explain that?
Oh, yeah, good question. So, I mean, people who are at um, so this isn't the case in the district, but in many states, the leadership of Fish and Wildlife agencies are often political appointees. That's not always the case, but a lot of times they're in like a senior executive service or they're political appointees in the district. I am a career civil servant, just like the biologists and aquatic education folks that I work with. And I think a lot of times the folks who are in that sort of director or who are maybe a chief for wildlife or fisheries, they're really just doing the sort of administrative functions. And I do that, but because we're small, I often get to go out in the field with biologists and support some of the survey work that they're doing. I work with our aquatic education team. I go out to our aquatic education events where we're doing angler education, and I go fishing. And it's really, for me, a nice blend because I do get to go out in the field. I do get to be a part of the research planning process. And I'm still doing the administrative stuff, which, I also enjoy sort of thinking about that higher level um, regulations, policy, things like that. But I also get to go out to the sites where we're doing restoration work and work with our biologists to make plans for doing our fish and wildlife surveys and our some of our new projects. Like we have a new invasive plant management project that we were funded for just this year to do more management of invasive plants around the district and really help care for and conserve our natural areas.
So given the size of your group in the District of Columbia, how much citizen science and volunteer science do you rely on for all of this?
We work with a Frog Watch project. That's probably our most prominent community science effort. And so we train volunteers each year in tracking frog calls and other amphibians across the district. So that's pretty active right now because now is the breeding season for those. And that really helps us better understand what our amphibian populations are like in the district. We also use tools like iNaturalist to help us better understand where wildlife are within the district because people like to report in on wildlife that they've seen. And so that provides us with additional information about what our wildlife populations are like. It gives our biologists some additional information as they plan their surveys each year to see, maybe we want to put out camera traps somewhere. Maybe we want to do some additional on the ground surveys somewhere. So it really helps inform the way that we're planning our surveys each year.
Hmm. That's really cool because it actually allows you to work with the public to develop science further, not just like this is an education outreach approach, but this is actually like how we can help inform and accelerate the science. That's really great. So I'm going to ask the question that I'm pretty sure is on everybody's minds. You talked about going out and being able to go out fishing with scientists, to go out on boats. How does one get your job? All right, I'm going to ask that. I'm going to ask that a little bit more specifically here. What does one have to do to get your job? What does one have to do in order to prepare themselves to rise to a position like yours?
Yeah, so I was, my undergraduate work was in botany. My graduate work was in fisheries science. I grew up in Michigan. I went to grad school in New York. So I thought I was going to be, in the Midwest or at least in the Great Lakes my whole life. When I moved down here for my fellowship with NOAA, I thought it was going to be like 1 year and done and back to back to the Great Lakes, probably a career in academia. I caught Potomac fever, which is what those folks who stick around call their deciding not to go back. And I think one of the things that I've learned in talking with my other colleagues who are in leadership positions at state fish and wildlife agencies is that there's no one track to get here. So some of them have been with their agencies since the day that they graduated, undergraduate or graduate. They went in, they got that seasonal job as a wildlife tech or a fisheries tech. They worked their way up to become a full-time biologist, and then maybe became the chief of the fisheries branch or the chief of the wildlife branch over time, and sort of built their career. They've been with the agency for 20, 30, even 40 years sometimes. Others of us came in sort of sideways. So I came right into the associate director position from outside, but I was able to bring that background that I had in both botany and fishery science. And then I had also taken a lot of general ecology, mammals, herps, other science courses along the way. So I at least had, enough to be conversant. I'd taken, maybe 1 or 2 classes in all those different taxa. So I had at least that sort of basic understanding so that when I came in and started having my conversations with biologists about what they wanted to be doing as state fish and wildlife agency, I was able to understand what some of the challenges were that they were facing, what some of the taxa were that they were studying. And I could be, if not an expert in all the various taxa that we work with, at least conversant enough that I could read reports and talk with them and seem fairly intelligent in doing so.
So I want to
Yeah.
ask two questions on this. The first one is you mentioned internships, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that are like, well, where do I find out where these internships are? Are we still running everything through, what is it, ACE, or for all state federal positions? Like I'm aware that there is the SCA or tell me, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think it really varies. For us, our internships are considered temporary part-time jobs with the district. And so when we advertise them through our internship portal, which is just a DC government website. And we do also advertise them through whatever channels we can find. And so whether that's an ESA listserv, whether that is through local colleges, we don't tend to have a ton of seasonal positions because, again, we're small. So we might have just 1 or 2 internships a year. But a lot of state agencies have a ton of seasonal positions, and they'll generally work with the career offices at universities to get those advertised. But oftentimes they're advertised right on that state hiring website. And so that's actually how I got my job. Is I was tooling around on DC careers, and I said, wow, that sounds kind of fun. I have missed being out in the field. I've missed, really being able to make an impact in ecology rather than just sort of science communication. I would love a job where I get to work with fisheries and wildlife biologists. And so, put my application in, and lo and behold, I made it through the interview process.
So that leads me to my second one. Also, what's that website? DC Careers, what?
Yeah, it's like careers.dc.gov.
I know somebody's going to ask that. Careers.dc.gov. Cool. So you mentioned to me that you took a course in fisheries, you took a course in conservation, you were able to speak the language of the people that you are now working with. A comment that I get a lot is, well, how am I going to be enough of an expert for the job that I'm applying to? And I think, based on what you just told me, you can speak as an expert on how to insert yourself with a little bit of information and keep learning as you go. And I'm just wondering if you can provide some guidance to people that are now in the job market. They see a job description, they're like, how am I qualified for this? What's your suggestion for them?
I think start with the place where you feel really solidly that you are an expert. And so when you're writing that cover letter, when you are putting together a resume that is specific for that job, and I encourage you to always look at your resume and make sure that it matches the job that you're applying for. It doesn't mean you have to do a wholesale rewrite every single time, but do a few tweaks every time to make sure that you are using the kinds of duties that are in that job description, that you are using the right terminology for that state or that organization. Make sure you're calling things the same thing that they call them.
How do you know that? Like, how do you know what terminology to use?
Read the job description, read the website of the organization that you're applying to. Just spend a minimum of 10 minutes, reading through what is the company about, or what has the government agency done? Do they have a state wildlife action plan? What have they identified in that wildlife action plan as the primary threats to fish and wildlife in that state? Use that to then inform what you put into your resume, inform what you put into your cover letter. And, when you're reading through the job description, you may have the skills, but you may not have called the skills the same thing. And so, if you're reading the job description and you say, yeah, I think that is kind of like what I've done, but, I called it this other thing. Do that translation when you
Yeah,
are.
that's a really
Yeah.
good suggestion. Yeah. So I'll comment on that. There's more often than not now, a lot of employers and employing businesses will use some base level AI to screen through applications, and they're looking for keywords that match the job description. And so that translation that you just mentioned, it's really important just to make sure that your resume passes that first technological hurdle, at least in the limited experience that I've had. The second interesting thing there is it resonates with something that I've always tried to tell career seekers, which is an employer doesn't know what they want. They also don't know what they need. They have a wish list, right? And they think that they need like these basic things, but your resume is there to tell them, here's what I can deliver for you, but also here's what else I think I can deliver. And so like emphasize your trainings. Somebody asked a question on the chat, and I think it's relevant. So when you talk about taking those courses to deepen your understanding, did you go back to college? Did you take trainings? How do you keep up with your education?
Well, so most of those courses I took during undergraduate or graduate school, even though I was a botany major, I took a wider range of things. So I took mammals, I took a geology class. It really was more of an ecology preparation. And the same thing with graduate school. Um, you know, I I was able to take that herpetology class. It may not have been exactly what I needed as someone who is studying wetland science, but I said, this is relevant enough that it fits in.
Transferable.
Yeah. And if you're past that, if you've already done all of your coursework, there are often classes that you can go back to. You can go to your local university and take an undergraduate or graduate level class in those various taxa. But there are other ways that you can do that. So you could go through, say, master naturalist training, which is generally through cooperative extension in your state. You could go through other, um, you know, if you have time, you could take a course through a summer program where you actually go out and do a field class for 2 weeks, 6 weeks, a summer. Obviously everybody is a little bit different in what they're able to do, but those kinds of courses and using that in my preparation is something that, looking back, that was such a smart move for me. I thought it was just because I was unfocused and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so I said, well, ecology is kind of all of these things, and I know I want to be in ecology. But, in hindsight, it's like, wow, I was super smart to do that.
Yeah, I think especially in the world of ecology and more generally environmental science, having that kind of well-rounded education is not just a nice thing. It's kind of almost a requirement nowadays. You never know where you're going to be. I was at a nature finance conference 2 weeks ago. I have no idea what the economy is, but I was learning as the side. But all right, so in the last little bit of time that we have, I want to ask a question, and please feel free to pass this because I didn't give it to you in the prepared questions, and I know you might be limited in terms of what you can say, but you have a federal job on your resume, now you have a state job on your resume. What's the difference in working for those?
Yeah, so I feel like with the state job, I'm really able to make an impact on the ground. So the work that we're doing now, we're looking at fish and wildlife populations in the place where I live. We are writing regulations, we are making management decisions that are helping to conserve the fish, wildlife, and plants here in the District of Columbia. When I worked at the federal level, it was the next level up. So it was really thinking about more of the philosophical, what are we trying to do in responding to climate change? What are we trying to do as we think about the big picture research needs? So it was much more at the national or even the international level. And where I am now, I love that I can go out into the field and be a part of a team that is assessing, how do we restore this stream? How do we manage invasive plants in this forest patch so that we are able to connect the people of the District of Columbia with the green spaces, with the natural areas where they live?
I love that. So it's not really that it's more applied, it's just applied in a more meaningful way, I think. At least a more meaningful and more immediate way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I want to end on the question, what would you consider your proudest moment in your career history as an environmental scientist, as an ecologist? And I mean, don't say becoming incoming president of the ESA, because we already know that that's your proudest moment. What would you say is an event that drives you to keep on going?
Yeah, I think when the third National Climate Assessment came out in 2014, I had spent the previous 4 years really thinking about, how do we make this a report that isn't a doorstop, but is a report that will be useful and used by states, by cities, by business to help them respond to the challenges of climate change. And doing that, putting together the methods that we use to engage the public throughout the process was enormously fulfilling, because I got to see not just how we put together a scientific report, but how many people cared about responding to climate change and how those different perspectives came together to make that report. And the day that we released it was, a whirlwind. There was so much going on. There was a ton of media attention to it. Lots of people, there were hundreds of people who worked on this report, who had volunteered their time primarily to be authors on the report, who had volunteered their time to help connect the findings of the report back to the various communities that they were a part of. But the best part was seeing Stephen Colbert and John Oliver talk about the reports on their comedy shows.
My
Because that,
goodness.
for me, showed that we had broken through that sort of, this is a doorstop scientific report to this is something that is actually interesting, useful, and usable for the nation.
And the next day, ESA was like, we need to nominate you for incoming president. That's awesome. That's a great story. What a fantastic one. All right. There are several questions. Rese, if you look at the Q&A, if you open that up, there are several questions there. Some have already been answered. Thank you by Aerin. Some of them have not been. I encourage you to go to all of the answered and the open questions if you have anything to add to the answered ones. Or you can wait until we send them out afterwards. That's fine too. I want to take a quick intermission and allow Sandra to give some ESA announcements, and then we will jump to Aerin.
Thank you. Thank you, Aerin. Thank you, Rese. Thank you, Aerin. Hello, everyone. I'm Sandra Del Rio. I'm the Professional Programs Coordinator at the Ecological Society of America. Thanks for joining us today for the 8th session of Exploring Career Opportunities in Ecology webinar series. We have other career exploration events that I wanted to mention and make you aware that we have. We have actually tomorrow a Building a Resume for the Commercial Sciences workshop. We also have a Building a Resume for roles in state and local government on April 23rd. And the next upcoming sessions of these Exploring Career Opportunities in Ecology are May 13 and June 10th. You can register for them in ESA's webinars page. I will be sharing all the links in the chat in just a moment, but I also want to share that we also offer some valuable professional development opportunities that are currently available. We have a quantitative methods workshop series by ESA's Black Ecologist section with topics such as meta-analysis. That workshop was actually going to take place last week, but it will be rescheduled. However, you can still register and then you'll get all the information to join when we have a new date. There are other topics such as spatial statistics, individual-based modeling, and machine learning for ecologists. We also have a webinar tomorrow on environmental DNA, and there's a workshop on communicating science to decision makers at the end of this month. Additionally, we are offering support, financial support, discounted fees to register for these professional development events for those that have been impacted by federal cuts. Just contact ESA HQ at esa.org for more information. Additionally, I'd like to mention ESA's professional ecologist certification program. For those who might not know, ESA does have a certification program, and it's been around for over 40 years, and you do not have to be an ESA member to get certified. You can learn more about this program at esa.org/certification, and also contact us at cert@esa.org with any questions. We're also offering financial support for those that have been impacted by federal cuts if they're interested in applying for certification as well. And the ESA 2025 annual meeting that's taking place in Baltimore, Maryland. We have the late-breaking posters abstract submissions deadline will be on May 15. If the website isn't up yet, please expect to receive a message and an announcement in your inbox soon. During the annual meeting week, there will be the Career Central and various career workshops. Monday will feature a career fair plus hiring event. Tuesday through Wednesday, we'll have career panels and navigation in the private and academic settings. Thursday, we'll focus on college education, environmental education, and related topics. And ESA will also be offering a limited number of registration and travel grants with special emphasis on supporting displaced federal workers and defunded students. And support is also available through ESA's sections and chapters. And finally, and not less important, we have other career resources available. The ESA Career Center, powered by Wiley, allows you to post your resume and search for job opportunities. We also have the Ecolog listserv for job postings, and you can access ESA's online communities. You just need a basic web account, and jobs are posted there as well. Again, I will be sharing all relevant links in the chat in just a moment. Thank you for your attention, and back to you, Aerin.
Thanks, Sandra. As a shameless plug for the public and private ecologist section, we are scheduling a mixer for that for Baltimore's conference, and it's a pretty fun time, and it's a great way to network and meet people. It's kind of actually how this webinar started, because I just went to them and I enjoyed meeting new people and learning about other people's career paths. And I'm like, I don't want to wait until the next meeting for that, so I'm going to just start a webinar where I talk to people. So, Aerin, am I saying your name correctly? Because everybody is like, oh, it's spelled different. Is this correct?
Aerin and Aerin show.
Please introduce yourself. You are the Director of Science and Research from the Nature Conservancy of Canada. Tell us how that differs from the Nature Conservancy, which I said incorrectly just now. And tell us what you do in your position, how you got there.
Yeah, I'm Aerin Jacob. My pronouns are she, her. I live in Victoria, BC, on the west coast of Canada. This is Lekwungen territory. This is a beautiful place. It's been stewarded for millennia by Indigenous peoples, and I'm really grateful to live, work, and play here. Where I work, Nature Conservancy of Canada, NCC, is Canada's largest conservation organization. We're about 500 staff from coast to coast, and we've been around for about 60 years. We love our friends at the Nature Conservancy, US and international, but we're a different organization. In fact, the Nature Conservancy, TNC, also operates in Canada. They're called Nature United, and they do fantastic work. But we're different organizations that have very similar names. So I lead NCC's National Science and Research Program, which is a ton of fun, a big job. And I feel really glad to be able to do this work so that different kinds of evidence, including science, get to inform conservation, and so that science and scientists can learn from conservation, learn from people who are in the practice, in the policy, are Indigenous knowledge holders, so that together both science gets to learn and conservation gets to be better. And so my day-to-day job, it varies a lot. There is no typical day, as I bet a lot of your guests will say on these webinars. But it ranges from working with grad students and postdocs, with professors, with researchers in government, in other nonprofit organizations, in the private sector, many other places. And so sometimes it's on specific species. I have projects on wolverines or on endangered butterflies. Sometimes it's on big picture conservation, landscape scale planning. A lot of it is on the application of knowledge to policy, to practice, communicating about it so that that information isn't just held tightly by a bunch of scientists and behind a paywall.
I don't know whose job I want to steal more, yours or Rese's. Oh my goodness gracious. I think that you live in a prettier place, so I'm going to try to steal yours first. Tell me how you got to this position. I mean, this is a pretty impressive role. How did you stumble your way from college to here?
Yeah, so stumble is a good word. Looking back, there looks like there's a path. From the outside, it might look like a path. There was no path clear. And so I know we have a lot of students joining today. And what I want students to know is, if it's not clear right now to you, that is totally normal, and it's not even a bad thing. It's okay.
Well, thank you for saying that. Wonderful. So, go ahead, keep
it wasn't. And I kept thinking that if I was just waiting for a sign, that clearly I had to go this direction. If I find a penny, then obviously I should take that job. And it's not. You're just making the best decision you can with the information available, learning from it, learn, you gotta reflect, and then update your decisions in the future. So when I finished, I took 4 years off between undergrad, which was in biology, and grad school. And there's a couple reasons. I was pretty burnt out. I was involved in everything, high school and everything, and undergrad everything. And I was tired. I also did not get scholarships for graduate school. Like, I have some bimodal grades, and that was coming around, to bite me. So I did other things. I worked. I had one year it would be working for the United Nations Environment Program as an intern. The next year it was working in Alaska, studying muskox or flying squirrels or western toads. Then it was in Costa Rica, teaching a field school. I did all kinds of stuff, and I loved it. and it taught me what I love, what I'm good at, and the stuff that I don't love and that I'm not good at, so that I could update my information. And I was also leading bigger and bigger projects, working on papers with researchers, and eventually my reference letter writers for scholarships, because I was still applying to grad school, said, look, she's running these big projects. She's doing the work of a PhD, like somebody with a PhD. Let her into grad school. And so I did, and I was able to pick a project that I loved from the first day to the last day. There were a lot of days that were very hard, but I was able to choose a project that was very connected to me. Then I did a postdoc.
Why did you, can I just ask, why did
Yeah.
you feel the need to do graduate school?
I knew I knew the kind of jobs I wanted eventually required probably a PhD. I wanted to lead big projects. I wanted to step into the room somewhere, and especially difficult conversations, difficult places where evidence, especially the kind of evidence that I produce and think is important, is not always welcome. And so that often requires having to go to grad school. And I just wanted to learn. I wanted to learn about this particular topic. I studied tropical forest restoration and wildlife. I thought about it all the time. And I just needed to do that and to use it.
Okay, so you got to graduate school. And
Yeah,
then...
so got to grad school, 6 years go by. It's pretty hard times in grad school. Build a lot of character. Learned a lot. I did a postdoc, and during my postdoc, I started to look around, and it was a hard time to be a scientist in Canada. This is about 10 years ago. We were going through big cuts. Big federal scientists couldn't talk about their research, cutting the collection of environmental related data, especially climate related data.
Oh, this sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's a hard time. We've been there. And I wanted to do something where I found that my values about speaking truth to power and showing up for this is what the data says, this is what the information says, those are the consequences, and I don't want to be a part of that future. I want to change that. And it meant that I was looking for something other than academia. And although I had fantastic profs who were really engaged and showed me how many professors could do that, I didn't love the competition. I did not love that my win required the postdoc in the desk beside me to lose. And I wanted to collaborate. I wanted everybody, an idea where everybody wins together. And so that science can really produce that kind of work. And I developed a network. I got an amazing fellowship, which is called the Wilberforce Fellowship in Conservation Scientists. And through that, I learned about a job one day. And that job was leading the science program at an international nonprofit called Yellowstone to Yukon. That was an amazing 6 years of doing science, being a researcher at a nonprofit organization. And that was fantastic. And then a few years ago, I saw a job posting for this job, and it was to work at a national level all across the second biggest country in the world. And I couldn't pass it up. And here I am.
The Yellowstone to Yukon, I mean, just based on the name alone, I don't know what the organization exactly does, but it must cross U.S.-Canada boundary.
Yeah.
So can you speak to the politics in working across that boundary?
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities and a lot of differences. Y2Y is a transboundary organization, been around for about 25, maybe 30 years now. They probably have 50 staff now and work in 5 Western states, Montana, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, and Wyoming. 2 Canadian provinces, BC and Alberta, and in the north, the Yukon and the Northwest Territories. So there's they work to connect and protect nature all across that amazing landscape.
The question, there's a bunch of questions that are coming online, but trying to keep up with them. The question that I have is, actually, I just forgot my question.
Okay.
Oh, that's the first time that's happened to me. So I want to ask about DEI, and Indigenous tribes and your experience in working with them. And I'm going to phrase this in a way that I think is relevant to job seekers. I have heard a lot of people talking right now about, I'm really worried because I'm not white. I'm not from this country initially, or like, I don't know how I fit in. The DEI initiatives led by the US government before kind of gave me a voice, and now I'm worried about losing that. Canada is leagues ahead, at least with indigenous policy, than the US is. Now, I'm not going to get into better or worse, but in your experience, at least in the nonprofit sector, what's the trajectory like for diversity, equity, and inclusion in the job sector in the job sectors that you work in?
Yeah, you know, it's an interesting question and something for us all to consider, and that we also can draw from what we know about science. Diverse landscapes, diverse ecosystems are stronger, more resilient ecosystems. Places that employers that are more diverse have a diverse range of opinions, where people belong, have greater equity, are more productive. It's the right thing to do, right? The evidence is there. Let's do it. It's also hard. And in Canada, one of the things I feel good about is that this is really taken up in the nonprofit sector. Not across the board. There's a long way to go. And there's a difference between diversity initiatives and equity and inclusion and justice initiatives. So we have a ways to go there. However, all organizations are at the beginning of a journey. I see a change where funders and donors are looking for that, and where staff are leading that. I serve on the board of a nonprofit and a foundation, and this is something that board members are interested in. So it's a sea change that is happening, and it is a needed change. It's also something that, you know, people can feel like they have to give something up. This is something that makes us all better and stronger together. So rather than this really scarcity thinking like, oh, I'm not going to have my piece of the pie. Dude, make the pie bigger, grow the pie. Like, this is not a zero-sum game. So I'm also tired of dealing with a lot of the naysayers on that. Like, let's move ahead on the things we can. We don't have time for these things. And in terms of indigenous relationships in Canada, we need to be guided. We are guided in some cases by something called the Truth and Reconciliation Calls to Action, which is about recognizing the real racist history that Canada has and the present that we are still living in, and what it means for all of us as Canadians, including governments, businesses, all organizations, to recognize the truth of that information and to do something with it. So I do see advances in a lot of places, and we have a long way still to go.
So I just want to let you know, I'm getting a lot of feedback in the chats. Just thank you so much for the candid responses. I think you're really resonating with a lot of people. I want to ask a question based on that. So there's a lot of people thinking about applying to jobs from other continents. And, I think you're one of the few Canadian scientists that I've interviewed on this. Do you think it's easier for somebody who's not a Canadian or US citizen to get a job right now in Canada or in the US?
Like, compare the two countries?
Yeah, I'm just curious. Like, if somebody is trying to get into the environmental sector in North America, either for family, location, whatever, like, is Canada easier at the moment?
You know, I don't know. And some of that is just a reflection of who I am and my experience. I mean, I'm a white, able-bodied, English as a first language, person who's Canadian. So the jobs that I am able to access as a citizen are different. What I will say is that in Canada, our immigration uses a point system. And so there are different points you can get for different parts of your background, who you are. And specific education and training can help to do that. So too can an employer who's going to hire you for a specific job, if no Canadian or permanent resident can do that work. Okay.
So moving away from the DEI question, I really thank you so much for your candid ask on that. Somebody asked a question that I was going to ask too. So what was the transition like going back to graduate school from the workforce?
Some parts of it were fantastic. I loved being able to learn, and the time to read. Grad students, let me tell you, the time to read right now is a gift. Can feel like a burden, two sides of the same coin. It was also hard. I found myself frustrated that a lot of the things we were learning were not directly relevant to real life. And that doesn't mean that fundamental or pure or blue sky research isn't important. We still need to do that, but it wasn't what drove me. And I was in a department that was very theoretical. It helped to make me a stronger scientist. I don't regret that decision at all. But I was so hungry for a foot in outside of the ivory tower, and so venues like this, where you can meet people virtually, you know, in all different kinds of jobs, is crucial. I really encourage people to take advantage of that, because you need to have the end in sight. What is a range of jobs out there that you might like to do, even if you don't know the specific job, to help fuel you? And I took advantage of all of the opportunities available at university. Students, I really encourage you to do that now. Go to the Career Center. Do they have courses in interviewing? Go and talk to them about your resume. Take a class in public speaking. Ask the media office if they'll do a workshop for you and other grad students about talking to journalists. If the workshop doesn't exist, create it. Tell them that here's 30 people, here are their names. I got their list ahead of time who want to come do this. Ask the chair of the department, will you give us $500? Ask the post-grad student society, will you give us $500? And now guess what? You also just organized an event. Stick it in your CV. This is all part of your service.
I love that. I'm going to riff off of that. You had mentioned take a class in public speaking. You are clearly a gifted orator. Are you just talented? Does that come naturally, or have you honed that skill? And how do you recommend that people who are either gifted or don't have that skill get to be an orator?
This is not born. I was a really shy kid. It was really only in maybe late high school that I was, always put my hand up to answer questions in class, right? Nerd at the front of the room. But I did not want to be stand up and give a talk. And I took classes in it, and I just made myself do it, even though I would feel the blood rise in my face. I'm turning bright red. I'm glowing like Rudolph's nose. Just make yourself do it. And so practice makes better. Practice never makes perfect. There's no perfect. Let go of perfect. To do that kind of thing. So every opportunity you have to introduce yourself, to ask a question, once a semester, if you're in university still, once a semester, put your hand up in the seminar series and ask a question, because you just want to practice that muscle.
That's really great. I'm going to echo that advice to everybody. If you're not used to giving talks, just start it. Find your local Toastmasters. I don't know if Toastmasters is in Canada.
Toastmasters. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a widespread organization that just allows you to get up in a non-judgmental area and talk, and develop your own way of talking too. So, riffing still on your education and what got you to your current position, you are working in a policy-driven field. You are working with a lot of agencies, both US as well as Canadian. Did you take any environmental policy classes in college or in graduate school?
No, and I wish that I had. I followed a pretty traditional path in undergrad and in grad school, which is funny for me to look back at now. I think I was scared that I wouldn't know what I was doing, or, oh, I'm gonna get a B in this or something. Oh, well, just, go and do your best. And I didn't see a lot of people around me who were doing those kind of jobs. I didn't know about ways where I could get informal training. And I probably discounted the informal training. I was probably looking for things like, I'm going to take this course and then this course and this course, and then I'll have all the badges on my Girl Scout sash, right? And I'll be ready, rather than just read some stuff. But I did grow up in a household that was keenly interested in politics and in community stuff. So I knew that it was important to show up, to talk to politicians. And from a young age, certainly in undergrad, and in grad school, and even more since then, I talk to politicians. I volunteer for local campaigns. And that's a big way of just figuring out who's doing this kind of work and how can I either help or nudge it in the direction I think it should go.
And you said something earlier too that I want to integrate now is you did a lot of things and you learned what you like, but you also learned what you hate. I'm paraphrasing from before. So, I mean, for those people that are like, I don't want to work in environmental policy, you don't have to like it, but it's valuable to know what it feels like.
Just know a little bit about it and a little bit about the reality of the person doing that job and what might they need from somebody like you. And maybe they don't know they need it. Maybe it's not welcome when you send it. How can you make it just a little bit more sticky, a little bit more effective? And so it's just the, the empathy, the understanding of that. You're just trying to get a base familiarity with a bunch of stuff, and then choose the things you want to specialize in, that give you energy, that light you up, that you're good at. Maybe somebody will pay you for it, right? Volunteering doesn't pay the bills.
Mm. Okay, we have 5 minutes left, and I want to ask, there's a lot of questions. Thank you all so much for the questions that you guys have been asking. For those that we haven't gotten around to, just again, I will post those questions to the panelists after this, and we will get you back answers to those questions. Thank you so much, and keep them coming in. There's some very sophisticated questions in here, and I thank you so much for that. I want to open this up to both you and Rese. So hopefully Rese is still listening. I think I see her typing something. So you are both very high profile female scientists. And I wish that as a society, we were beyond this question, but we're not. How did you make it work? Family life, the biases that society puts against females in science. If you don't want to answer the question, that's fine. But I'm sure that at least half or more of our audience is going to resonate with this. So how did you cope with it? What were challenges or opportunities?
Now I could have a whole, do I want to answer this question? You bet. You bet I'll answer this question. It was hard. Like there's a—
Okay, but give Rese a second if she wants to answer too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
There's yeah, it was hard. And yet we've come a long way. And so now as a, as a white woman, my work is to make sure that other people do not have those same challenges and problems, and that the combination of privileges that I have is different than other people. So it is tough, but find the good people you're going to work with. Do your homework to avoid the people you can avoid. Absolutely.
I think for me, going into fisheries biology, it's an area where it was very male dominated when I started, and it is still very male dominated. And it was really kind of a cold wake up call for me, because I'd had a really supportive experience as an undergraduate, with really balanced male and female mentors. And going into my graduate program, it was, it was a lot of guys. I was not prepared for that. And so I learned some hard lessons, and there was one summer that I spent the season sleeping in a tent because there was not housing available for women, because there just wasn't space. And so, that's what I did because I didn't know any better. I didn't know how to ask for more. But I do think there are things that are changing. And I think even within the fisheries community particularly, but in the fish and wildlife community more generally, there is a lot more attention to this. And when I look at things like, when I came aboard as the state wildlife director, I was one of just a handful of women. And even in the past 3 years, that number has increased significantly. And at least at that high administrators level, there is a lot of discussion and conversation about how to make the field not just more welcoming, but really more feasible for women and others who maybe aren't the traditional fish and wildlife ecologist, to make meaningful contributions and grow their careers.
I want to say one other thing too.
Yeah,
the work is on there's a lot of this work that's on men to do, right? So even asking the questions about how do men balance work and life, and a lot of guys are like, "Oh, I've never thought about that before," but women get asked that all the time. So what is the work for men to do to make sure that they are taking up the service or this invisible labor that a lot of women do is a crucial part of this change.
Thank you, really, because you just grab the attention of the other 50% of the audience as well. And I appreciate you saying that, because that's one of the reasons why I asked that question is we really need women to be more comfortable with advocating for themselves in these environments. So I really thank you for that. And it's on men to help make the world feel more comfortable in a world that, you know, males have previously, unfortunately, for whatever reason, dominant. So we could have an entire hour-long conversation on this, and I really appreciate your brief and candid responses. For everyone that's on, we are at the end of our time. Thank you so much. I am getting a lot of great feedback. I hope that your LinkedIns blow up with new contacts and new people and new opportunities to network. These QR codes all go to our LinkedIn pages. It's sort of where business is done outside of academia, and it's where we all connect. I really encourage all of you to connect with us offline. We are all here because we want to help. We want to at least provide assurance. Like I said, none of us are going to get you a job, but we at least can help you gain the confidence that you need if you are in need of that. Aerin and Rese, thank you so much for this candid conversation. I really appreciate it. If anyone's interested in future webinars, scan the QR code to the right. Previous webinars are all on YouTube. We have 2 more scheduled for the next 2 months, and we hope to keep this going. And then to have kind of an informal roundtable at ESA if Sandra finds us a round table. All right, guys, thank you so much. Talk to you guys later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.